that game where he was hitting the top tier 2 turret, that was his 5th death where he dies to Jun, and that's like at level 12. You know, one of them's at level 1, one of them was when he had no flash, so there's a little bit of saving grace, but even still, 2 deaths that early into 5 deaths, you know, in that mid game is really, really high for a mid laner. Now, Ryze taken off the board, Yunara, there we go, a pick that is still open, which typically we see hit on that red side ban phase, given over to Light. You have to imagine that JDG had a plan here. They banned Yunara on red side last time, but this time they've left it open.
The first time that a red side team has given that one up, and so Light finally going to get his hands on it. We'll see what the matchup is in opposition. Going to be the Sivir-Nico combination for Peyz and Xiaohu. So some nice wave clear, and also some nice early game clearing and pushing power that this bot lane for JDG is going to have.
Yeah, maybe looking to punish the Yunara and make sure that she can't really get to that late game stage using the power of the boomerang blades, the Qs on the wave from Xiaohu as well. Massive frontline taken early here by Breathe, looking to play that frontward style, and a Lulu as well. I was asking for this from the get-go of Yunara, that this is a champion that needs a enchanter support to make her thrive. Think your Twitches, think your Kog'Maws. You wouldn't pair them with a Rel. There's a reason for it, and I think that Yunara fits into that same vein. You can do so much work when you've got an enchanter by your side, and now we get to see Weibo decide that that's the way to go about it.
So nice front line opened up here for Breathe on the Sion, but that's a nice counter matchup here. Xiaoxu on the Mordekaiser. Played this, I believe, in Game 5 against EDG earlier in the playoffs, and definitely a nice counter pick to any tank that really shows up here. And you're also going to have the ability to use that Death Realm onto a big carry like Light in some of these later game fights.
And even using it onto the Lulu as well isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. If you take away half of the pairing, right, where the Yunara doesn't get those big buffs or the ulti, also not a bad idea. So we'll see how this plays out, whether or not we get to see some hybrid building from Xiaoxu as well. There were some buffs to AD Mordekaiser, so whether or not we know we get a experimental hex plate, something that looks a little bit more crazy in the top side, we will keep our eyes out for. Heading into, though, this second round of bans, two teams have got very different priorities, I think, with, you know, top laners and AD carries and supports both locked in. There's a lot of opportunity for Weibo to continue to double down on this, protect the AD carry composition. For JDG, though, they want to keep diving. They kind of need to at this point, where they've got this Nico to start off the engage, where they've got this Sivir to boost people up. Playing these front to backs isn't going to be easy, especially through a Sion who's going to be much, much tankier than a Mordekaiser. So I'd like to see them commit to trying to take out this Yunara, maybe using the Lulu to, or using the Lulu as a bit of a bridge to get to this Yunara as well.
See what exactly Weibo wants to target here, as we're still looking for a mid-jungle combo on the JDG side. Two players who honestly have outclassed their opponents so far in Shun and Scout. Maybe one a little bit more expected than the other, but regardless, looks like Scout's now taking the brunt of the ban focus here by Weibo after, you know, he's had, you know, maybe not the best season overall. Pretty respectful stuff coming through for Weibo, but it's going to be the victor nonetheless. A very powerful team fighting composition has opened up for JDG. I think a nice engager for Shun would round out this composition really nicely.
Yeah, and I mean, they are currently just playing 5v5 once again. Looks like Weibo are looking to do a similar sort of thing. It's kind of what I asked for at the end, where they've played two compositions now where they didn't really do what they needed to. Let's go back to the basics. Let's try to do something that's, you know, pretty quintessential team fight oriented. And now with the Neferi locked in, it does give Tian a little bit more opportunity around the map, a bit more of a chance for him to make something happen. And I was looking at something that could be locked into this mid lane as a bit of range to keep Scout at bay. Hui does fit that brief quite nicely. You can keep the Victor at arm's length and maybe make sure that he's not able to get involved in that team fight. But
okay,
Xiaohu deciding he wants to be that roamer. It's a protect the Yunara composition after all. And with Twisted Fate, we are putting all the eggs into Light's basket.
Wow, so another time here where the Twisted Fate's going to be locked in for Xiaohu, matched against a Poppy for Shun. You get to negate a little bit of that Neferi dashing in the jungle, as well as Breathe, or sorry, Light, I should say, on the Yunara once she is, of course, transcended. I am very curious to see how this Weibo composition is going to function, Roodood, because JDG, it's very straightforward for them once again. It's just push forward, use all your damage in the late game, and, you know, find success most likely at the end of it.
Yeah, I think that the Neferi versus the Mordekaiser is the most important matchup for me. It feels like that's the most likely target that Xiaoxu is going to go for, because he's going to get most frequent access to either the Scion or to the Neferi. And if you want to Death Realm the Scion, you're going to not really accomplish all that much. But Death Realming Neferi, there's a very real world where you can just win that 1 versus 1. Turn the tides of that fight quite easily. But I do think that Weibo's comp does pretty much the same thing as JDG's, where we're just looking at 2 carry, or really 1 carry in the backline who's looking to stand strong and do DPS behind the weight of a meaty Scion.
And what could be our final game of the day here on LPL English, it is Weibo who set up a composition around Light. A player that definitely has had his ups and downs this series, this season, and is going up against one of the most consistent players in the entire league in Peyz, who just had a masterful performance in game number 2 to try to save this playoff run for them, for a chance to keep themselves in title contention, the chance to go up those championship point standings. All comes down to this here. JDG have been reverse sweeped before. Can it happen again? We'll find out as we enter game number 3 in Shenzhen.
敌军还有30秒到达战场。
Nice to see that there's still some support for Weibo.
Yeah, that was a cool. We got the iPad all set up for that moment. Hey, delivered. Shout out to that fan.
But I think that, oh my word, I haven't seen an AI bot be so favoured for one team in the late game in a while. But I do think that's a good point to highlight, that sometimes I don't agree with this AI bot, to be honest with you. Crisp, though, he could be in a bit of trouble. Oh wait, he took Q level 1. Never mind. All right, he's chilling.
Just a little bit of poke here for JDG's bottom lane. They should have a pretty nice time pushing, even though there's a Lulu on the other side here for Crisp. So you will have the double range bot lanes on both sides. Overall for Weibo, though, very much looking at this mid jungle, see what they can accomplish here in this game. You know, a big concern for Neferi in certain drafts is that it's a jungler that doesn't have a lot of hard crowd control. Xiaohu does have a lot of hard crowd control, should be a nice setup. However, getting targeted by Shun very early on this Raptor.
Play for the small ones, play for the small ones. 2 for June, go, go, go! 3!
Gonna get it. Okay. Tian at least gets the big one. However, both junglers still level 1 after splitting that camp rather evenly. And so Tian is going to have to go for another one. Actually picking up minion XP for level 2. I don't know if Xiao's going to like that one, but they're going to try to funnel this Neferi team.
Ghost for barrier traded down on the bot side, and now it's a question of getting pushed down in this bot lane with the junglers being so focused on making a play happen that they really need their bot lanes to be able to rotate. It does look like somehow Light and Crisp have been able to establish push down in this bot side, where Zhuo probably looking to utilize his spells on the champions as opposed to on the wave, but with that you'd expect there to be a HP advantage, which there just outright isn't at the minute. So I do think that Weibo's bot side actually getting a little bit of the better of this bot side fight for the time being.
Getting some pushback despite obviously the early exchange, although it was not very much happening at the start of that laning phase for Zhuo and Peyz. Looks like once again a situation where they'll be pushed back at least for the start of this, but once they pick things up towards the end of this, we'll see really the power of Peyz and also what Zhuo can do on this Nico. I mean, just the power of this Pop Blossom, especially into the Weibo composition where you're going to have the Scion and the Fury jumping right into you, definitely going to be big. As we see Tian coming in to try to pick up a kill on a scout, and Xiaohu playing very aggressively with his HP bar, going to survive and now allow for Tian to try to finish this one off. Scout just going to have to flash over the wall. The Q2 misses, and that means that the Victor will survive for now. As Tian will go for the enemy Raptor. Shun is here, jumping in, and finally facing a heroic charge. Shun trying to keep his chickens alive, but it's just not going to happen as Tian dominating the JDG jungle.
I think, I mean, a multiple amount of misplays here as Breathe steps forward, no TP here, and just trying to stop the recall of Peyz. This is really big for Weibo. They've actually done a very good job in this early game at neutering almost what this bot lane wanted to do, and also keeping Jun at bay. Looking at the CS, it doesn't look like it's all gone too well just yet, but a steal away of that Raptor camp, a secure of your own Raptors, does mean that now Jun has nothing to clear, whereas on the flip side, Tian has got his blue. Looks like he can go to Raptors, go to Gromp, go to Wolves as well. He's going to be a bit ahead of this Poppy, and that's a really good calling for the time being and making sure that this Poppy not in the best of positions to stop them fearing.
So it's you know, the ability to cancel the dashes and everything, but Tian doing a good job punishing here to start things off. You're not able to find a ton of lockdown here on this champion, but if you know, Shun is going to try to stand around his camps to protect it, you're going to get pushed out. As we see another play for these Raptors. As both junglers definitely big fans of the chickens this game. But Tian's going to just be able to see give over that control and force Shun back to the crowd.
I mean, Smite should be not available for Jun either, so Tian probably going to be able to walk in and see a little bit of a flop for this as 50-50 is secured by Jun there, able to use a nice little combo between the buckler and the Q there, means that it's a nice pickup. There's another -1 on the top side for Peyz here, struggling to find these last hits as he is behind, well, actually no gold as it looks like.
Very even, all things considered. The only real advantage so far is in the mid lane with Xiaohu, who has picked up about a wave of an advantage in CS, but also has the Twisted Fate passive, which means that he'll be getting extra gold regardless, as both bot lanes have rotated to the top side of the map. We're not going to get those grubs for another 3 minutes or so, but we're still seeing aggressive play here as a heal is already used by Joel.
To what end? I don't understand this. Just like, we've used some of the heal. Yeah, I mean, if Xiaohu lands his route, maybe they can flash and find lethal, but we know we've still got some of the heal burned on or available for Crisp. It's very peculiar actions that are being taken place up on this top side. Either way, I hope to see that it subsides a little bit and that hopefully the action is going to be more structured, more organised, let's say, because to be honest, fighting for the sake of fighting, whilst a pastime of the LPL in a game number 3 where you really can't lose as Weibo, feel too good about it.
Weibo though still off to a relatively small, but you know, it's a lead regardless here in game 3, as they're just trying to take this one game at a time on their way towards a reverse sweep. I see some resets coming in. I want to thank the sponsor here on LPL English, that being Protif.gg, as they are a beautiful way for you to level up your game and play closer to the pros. You can get some expert coaching from anybody or a number of different players, both in the NACL, the ERLs, and even the LTA. So you can use code LPL10 to save 10% off on Protif.gg. Thank you very much to them for being a sponsor here on LPL English.
You too may be able to learn how to hold a wave like Crisp, where you walk past the minions and secure all of them for your AD carry, as Light is now very much ahead. Will feel pretty good. Gets to go for a slightly better build path as well early on. I talk about this a lot, but if it's an AD carry, you go for a BF sword item and you can't buy a BF sword off of your first 1 or 2 bases, it feels pretty rough. Whereas Yunari, you get to go Blade as Flash mid.
Ooh, flash gold card on the Scout, who does not have that flash into the Decimating Smash, goes Breathe, and that is first blood picked up for Weibo. Finally, they get on the board first, and this time it's in the hands of Xiaohu.
Hey man, it took them 2 games, but they punished a mid laner with no flash. It's wild that they were able to get away with that. and you know, they've managed it with flash gold card, and the knock-up comes in from Breathe. No real way out for Scout. I think that, you know, the only real way he can stop that from happening is he preemptively puts down a gravity well to stop the Scion Q from charging up, but that's about as good as it gets. It would have required pretty perfect play, which pretty difficult to expect and know how to try to look for. Either way though, we can see that Weibo early on starting out this game pretty strong, and again, JDG 2-0 up in a series doesn't mean that they are going to win this series. Fans will know they lost this position to BLG, and you can already see in the top side that the Shunara Lulu combo is going pretty nuclear at the minute.
We can see as soon as those items start to come alive, this Yunara is going to hurt even more, especially when in this ulti state. As you can see the laser coming in to chunk Zhuo out even more, and with the pressure that they were able to use off of Light using that ultimate, Tian's going to get all 3 grubs here for Weibo, so they're off to a great start here in this 3rd game.
Dragon live down on the bot side, and would like to see Weibo. We can look at the minimap, already seeing that Crisp is recalling. Expect that Light recalls after this wave has been pushed in as well. Move back down to that bot side. Let's get the Yunara back onto the side of the map where the objective is, and I think that Weibo should be looking to take this early game a bit by storm. They've already found just the slightest advantage. Let's try and hammer that home, really. With Rod of Ages already picked up for Xiaohu, he's in a very good spot, right? He's already 1 minute in, so at 18 minutes, he's going to end up with that fully stacked rower, which is a very early pace, very good pace as well for a Twisted Fate. He's already up 1k gold, and the contributions of that passive, on average, every farm gives you 5 gold, so 80 gold, 80 CS that he's picked up here, it's 400 gold roughly from his passive that he's going to be picking up already.
Plus that first kill. A little bit more afterwards. That's a 9-minute Roa. It's going to be stacking up very quickly. And we'll see what Xiaohu's able to do for the rest of this early to mid games, where TF is really going to be able to influence other areas of the map, especially alongside Tian on this Nefiri. We haven't seen them link up too much outside of this mid lane. The Destiny has not been popped yet by the Weibo mid laner, but we're still waiting to see what exactly that looks like in terms of impacting other areas than that, maybe getting light even further ahead. That is where Weibo's composition is really going to start to get off the roll.
10 minutes and teleports are unleashed as this stage in the game, but still quite quiet. Looking to see what happens next around this dragon, most likely, as a good spell shield comes through, but
yeah, lights without the ulti. He's going to flash away from that Pop Blossom, as Shun is in the area as well, but it will just be a trade a couple of those summoner spells. Notably, Light going to be without either of his or his ultimate. With Shun here, maybe an opportunity to start up this dragon or look for an aggressive play on the Regan.
Yeah, and I mean, what you don't recognize is how much... Oh, Crisp in trouble. Flash
nice
for flash.
That's actually going to slow down Shun pretty nicely. It prevents really any opportunity for them to take the dragon, so really going to have to try to punish these summoner spells if you are JDG.
Yeah, that's the big ticket here, or the big kicker here, I should say, is just making sure that you can do anything with those summoner spells being down, right? With no Poppy Flash, it does become a little bit more difficult. No Nico Flash as well, even more so. Outside of Xiaoxu making his way down to the bot side, Flash Death Realming somebody. The tools to extend that summoner spell advantage, not necessarily the greatest. You can see that Tian is on vision taking this Drake, and it doesn't feel like there's too much of a response from JDG.
Not for now. As again, we take a look at their composition, right? You have Victor, you have Sivir. These are champions that will scale nicely, can survive a little bit of initial sieging power from Weibo by being able to wave clear really, really well. And so for them, like, losing an early dragon, not the worst case scenario. You just want to make sure you get your carries in good enough spots that they will be able to get to this big power spikes a little bit quicker than you might hope at this point. Being down 1,000 gold, not the end of the world right now, but we're going to have to see them continue to find areas and opportunities to collect gold and try to get themselves back into this game a little bit more.
Yeah, and importantly, massive item spike for Peyz as he finishes his BF sword, no longer in depression land of the AD carries, but you can see how far behind he is. His Light's already picked up that Kraken Slayer. The free boots as well mean that he's doing very well for himself, and the 500 gold lead really shouldn't be in a too bad a position whatsoever. Xiaoxu here wanted to take a look at his items. Riftmaker, the opener for the Mordekaiser, so an ability to hopefully stay in these team fights that little bit longer.
A nice shot from Breathe. I mean, this is not a matchup that you're going to be particularly happy about, but the fact that he has not died yet and has stayed relatively even in CS, a very good sign for what the Scion can do in the future, because you're never going to win the 1v1, you're never going to solo kill Xiaoxu. If you stay alive and be important later on in the game, that is a win for you on your specific champion. With Hall of Radiance, going to be able to easily clear out these waves, such as the QW combo. And that will most likely be his job until we get a little bit later on into this one. Weibo, though, going to be happy to scale into this, as they already have about a 1,500 gold lead. A lot of that being into some of their big carries. Might see that kind of continue to grow as Xiaohu goes for the Destiny on to Scout. He has to flash away. That's a nice cooldown already utilized, and they'll try to take advantage of that one yet again.
Yeah, Wildgrove used for the knock-up there, but Scout able to flash out to safety. I like the heads-up play from Crisp here. Lulu not a champion necessarily bound by big wombo combos, but being able to utilize that Wildgrove to knock somebody up is a very, very powerful tool that sometimes goes a little bit underutilized, as with no flash, needs to be careful for a root here on the teleport coming in behind.
Yeah, Scout's going to try to cut off the bot lane of Weibo, who, remember, do not have flashes on either of them. There's the Keeper's Verdict, and that's a dead Yunara on my screen. Scout gets right back on the board for JDG.
And it's massive that it goes to Scout as well here. Looking at the carries around, right? We've got Zhuo there, Jun there. You want this gold to go into the Victor. Blackfire Torch already picked up, and the second that comes through makes a play happen. Really, really big play from the JDG mid laner here, as he was the one who was focused out through the majority of this early game. The second he gets an opportunity to make a play himself, he does exactly that. Takes down the Yunara, and again, I want to highlight that that is the entire goal for JDG. Last time round, game number 2. Weibo Gaming's composition was kill Peyz. If they couldn't do that, they lost. They couldn't do it, and they lost. But this time, it's JDG who have got the kill the AD carry task. So far, they've only managed it once, but it's one more time than we've seen from the enemy team at the minute.
Yeah, it's better than Weibo were able to do against Peyz last game. I think he only died one time, and it was like, at the very
didn't die
end
at all.
So the game was already over. So, he didn't die at all. He went 11.
Pretty sure he hasn't died this series. At the minute, I think
right.
Peyz is on a flawless KDA. Somebody fact check me and tell me if I'm wrong.
No,
but I'm almost certain that this guy hasn't died yet.
That's pretty good. I will say.
He's a pretty good AD carry.
That's an AD carry, yeah, shocker, I guess, right? But, man, this is such a consistent player for this team. You know, even when JDG were having some struggles, I still feel like overall Peyz was generally able to deliver. Sure, he's had his slumps alongside the rest of this team, but overall, a player that this organization has been able to rely on, and maybe even more than somebody like Scout, who, of course, has had a good series so far. And so, for JDG, very happy about where Peyz has been at, and you're certainly loving where he is at this point in this best of 5.
I think that the thing that I am worried about is the fact that Weibo Gaming are a 1 carry composition, whereas JDG are a 2. And that's what scares me.
Oh, Xiaohu! He was a ward, and now he's not, as he lands the Pop Blossom out of 2 members of Weibo. Thankfully for them, Light and Chris both had their flashes back up, and they're able to use that to save their lives. But a big cooldown utilized there for JDG comes at the cost of 2 flashes, as they now will be able to try to regain control around the Rift Herald pit that has just spawned. But Breathe and the top side here for JDG are still very powerful. Breathe is now stuck in the death realm as Xiaoxu does issue that onto him, and he's going to respawn straight into 3 members of Weibo. But the Keeper's Verdict's going to knock away the jungler, and here comes the rest of the assault from JDG. Tian able to land another Q3 on to Xiaoxu and force JDG back, as Weibo will now be able to control this Rift Herald.
They're literally healing the Scion at this point. This is the apex for a Breathe at this stage in the game, where he's just able to stand and tank pretty much everybody. Nobody's got the damage to get through his HP bar. 680 bonus health from that Soul Furnace as well means that he's able to stand tall, keeps his team in very good contention for that Rift Herald, and they will secure it. No startup on the Dragon either just yet, Grapes. So JDG not particularly looking to take that fight at all. We get to see quite what happened. The picture-in-picture, really, really good play by Xiaohu. Catches 2 of them off guard, and instead of landing the root onto Light, goes for Crisp instead. Double flash is burned either way, so it's not a big deal. But the Lucidity boots for an eco, almost a core, getting that reduced summoner spell timer, very, very important.
And now we'll see if Xiaohu's able to do that again, because his ulti's coming up in just about 15 seconds, and Light and Crisp, of course, will not have their flashes for a potential fight around this Cloud Dragon. It means that JDG have easy control as Peyz shoves in a mid-wave with those Boomerang Blades. And it should be JD Gaming evening up the objective front, so even though they weren't able to get many kills off of that fight around the Herald, they have gotten a ton off of it, despite, of course, the objective on the top side of the map going over to Tian.
And I will say as well, I'm actually quite a big fan of Xiaohu's build path here, right? As much as Rod of Ages, you know, we snooze at rowers most frequently when we see them normally on Victors, but he's looking like he's going for a Lich Bane second, which is looking pretty decent. It will give him the opportunity to actually deal some damage on this Twisted Fate, which I feel like is almost an unsung glory of this champion, that people just no longer really look to do it. They go for the rapid fire, they go for a Zhonya's, and they look to be a bit of a stun bot and a bit of a DPS threat as a secondary measure. Yeah. But you can actually do damage on this champion, and I'd like to see a more AP-oriented build path, especially when I'm looking at the composition of damage that they have, and it's so focused on the Yunara.
Yeah, you're 1,000 gold up. Take advantage of it. Buy some damage item. Try to one-shot some people. Obviously, you know, the spell shield from Sivir is going to make things a little bit tougher, but if you can land a full combo onto Scout, even onto somebody like Shun at this point in the game, could cause some havoc, and that's what Xiaohu's going to try to accomplish here. Of course, not fully at that second item yet, but we're getting there. sooner rather than later, as Weibo do still have that 1,500 gold lead as we get closer to that 20-minute mark. JDG, on the other hand, they still have the scaling. They still are getting those Victor bucks in. But you know, they're going to want to pick up a play in the next couple of minutes. Maybe throw on the Otacon. That's going to spawn on the bottom side.
Let's look at the items, though, for the time being. Lichbane Rower plus Kraken Slayer and Runans versus components and 1 items for JDG. This is a really good spot for Weibo to look to try and take a fight. They have gold advantages. Importantly, they are in the right place. So let's try and leverage that. Let's try and find a fight here. Light opted into running for that Runan second, whereas Peyz actually went to go finish off those tier 2 boots. So he's not really close to getting that Navori done just yet. And the Yunara, I feel very happy about her position in this game, knowing that movement speed not necessarily the greatest stat that she needs to buy when there's a Lulu in her pocket.
We'll see the power of this 2-item Yunara, this 2-item TF, potentially around this mid lane, as the Herald has been popped by Tian, but Zhuo going to look to go in. The Pop Blossom does not find anybody, and then Nico is just a little bit too worried to flash onto a target and ends up not using that Pop Blossom successfully. Keeper's Verdict sends away Light, and so that will make Weibo now retreat towards the bottom side, where Scout could now be the target. He's getting chased away from this wave. It's already a tower nearly taken in mid, and now we see Breathe issuing some damage on top side as well.
Yeah, some really important timings used here, and some really important cooldowns as well. No Poppy ulti means defending these objectives is really tricky. No Nico ulti means that engaging any fights is really difficult. They've just lost top tier 1, they've lost mid tier 1 because they were harassed down to the bot side to defend Scout. Weibo playing this map incredibly well, and all of a sudden in a game where, and in a series where there had been very little life from Weibo, they found themselves a 3k gold lead off the back of simple map plays and off of JDG kind of fumbling.
I just blinked it as a 3,000 gold. What happened, Rude?
Yeah.
I know what happened. It was 2 towers and Twisted Fate existing, I guess, but man, it just, in a blink of an eye, Weibo Gaming are in a great position here in this 3rd game. JDG, of course, they still have the scaling, but at this point in the game, Weibo also has some scaling. You got a late game Yunara, soon to be at 3 items, with a Lulu obviously still buffing her up, and an unkillable Sion at this point. I mean, Weibo are in a great spot.
Yeah, I mean, they are going to need to, as JDG, wait for the hyper late game, and even then, you're dicing with a powerful Yunara with a Lulu in her pocket, so I don't know that this game gets a lot better for JDG. All I know is that at the minute, it can't really get too much worse. A few kills going over to the Yunara maybe doesn't make it too much better, but yeah, maybe our producer, maybe jinxing it a little bit here. In 2025, this entire year, there have been 11 best of 5s JDG have played. 6 of them have gone to Game 5.
Maybe this is the secret ploy to go to bed early or something. I don't know. But
to jinx it.
3-0 for JDG would be exciting nonetheless. Of course, it's going to have to come off the back of a comeback here in this 3rd game.
Yeah. With
them now facing a 3,000 gold deficit and a Destiny popped in the bottom lane. JDG forced away, as Xiaohu just using it as a threat with the Otacon spawning.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that the Otacon being on the bot side doing a massive favor for JDG right now. There's a massive wall that Breathe would have to drift through, and it sort of curbs his entrance to that bot lane. Able to easily clear out this mid wave and then move back down to the bot side and continue to threaten JDG, who are currently the ones who have started up this objective. They've got Keeper's Verdict, they've got Flash, they've got Pop Blossom. These are those big tools that they need to utilize. And there is a fight in the top side of the river going on between the 2 top laners as well. Yeah,
Breathe is just trying to prevent Xiaoxu from getting into the pit at this point, but the Mordekaiser unrelenting and using that Death Realm on to Breathe. But now the rest of Weibo just going to collapse on top of him instead. The teleport comes in as it's going to be Scout trying to join the fight. And the Keeper's Verdict's going to knock away a big chunk of Weibo Gaming. Maybe JDG have found an opportunity, but instead they're going to use that space to retreat back without claiming the Otacon or this Ocean Drake.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe they can do one or the other, right? Where they either take the fight on the top side or they look to just sacrifice their top laner in exchange for getting the Otacon, but ultimately they do neither, and now Weibo are easily going to be able to take the dragon. It's a question of whether or not JDG look to contest after the fact.
Yeah, it's going to be an easy secure here for Tian and Weibo. As a teleport came in for Xiaoxu, so it seems like JDG still want to scramble a little bit around this area of the map, and with that being said, they are ceding control of the mid lane. Light's going to get free damage onto this tier 2.
Yeah, to what end? What is their goal here as JDG? Xiaohu able to do some good little bits of poking around. Jun here maybe in a little bit of trouble actually, as fortunately he's a little bit tankier, able to take down that wolf and walk out to safety. But you can see they're completely foregoing mid lane. It's going to get another little bit of chip damage down with this cannon minion. Scout will be able to clear it out, but I mean, even still, he'd like to get towards his full upgrade pretty soon. Probably sat at definitely 2, maybe working his way closely to that 3rd upgrade, but still not really close to having the glorious evolution just yet.
And maybe when you get there, you get a 3rd item on Peyz. Could that be the opportunity for JDG to find fights? Maybe, but again, as we say that, Weibo are getting stronger and stronger too. It's now a rapid fire on Xiaohu. That's his 3rd completed item. We're getting close to the Infinity Edge on Light as well. He's he's a little bit ahead of the curve, I should say, compared to the Sivir at this point. And Weibo feeling very nice about where their game state is at as well.
And again, an average of 5 gold for every Twisted Fate CS that you get. Even if we just say that it's 200, that's 1,000 gold passively that he's got from having creeps, from CSing. Probably near 1,200 looking at it, with the amount of gold that he's picking on up. So even without the TF passive, he's like 700, 800 gold up over the Victor. The fact that he's got that passive as well just goes to add to it. With Scout opting into this window shop as well, where he's got Seeker's Arm Guard for a bit of a stasis, but he's also got the Blighted Jewel so that he can try and cut through the Scion. It is pretty tricky for the Victor to be that big DPS threat without those big completed items, and when he's got to go shopping for all of these different components to make himself safe.
Now maybe the problem that is arising for Weibo right now is while they have been able to compound their gold lead very nicely, they rely very heavily on creative setups and perhaps objective pulls to actually start fights. We haven't seen too much of that just yet. We've only had 2 kills throughout the first 26 minutes of this game. Incoming LPL in 2025 joke insert here. JDG are pretty happy about that, and I feel like for Weibo, utilizing Xiaohu to utilizing that Destiny a couple more times could be useful, but at this point, you have to be very sure that a play is going to work, because if it doesn't, and you just maybe burn a couple of summoner spells for that, that's a big tool that will not be at your disposal anymore.
Yeah, but look at the... you are right in that Destiny is that massive tool to make a play happen. I want to highlight quickly that we have just hit 3rd item for Lights. The Yunara is with Infinity Edge, is with a Lulu. And with that redemption as well, again, another layer of safety that is just really difficult to try and deal with. I think if Chris works towards a Moonstone next, like this Yunara is going to have a bonus sort of 1,000 health that isn't going to be factored into her current health bar. And that's terrifying to try and think about, where Peyz, he's sat just on the BF sword at this minute. He's not been able to get all of the gold just yet, but what we've been mentioning this entire series long is that he's the one who comes up in the clutch.
Dashes onto Peyz. A nice spell shield, though, coming out from the Sivir to make sure that that laser on the upgraded W does not take him down. Big opportunity for Light, though, in this game with Weibo down to match point. He has all the tools at his disposal to be the big carry for his team. And he hasn't shown it just yet, but that was a good sign of a good start.
Yeah, I think it's about making sure now, honestly, as JDG, that you try to punish that. No ulti on the Yunara, no Transcendence is pretty big, and honestly, I'm not against this play. It's whether or not Breathe has the wherewithal to walk up, spot this out from happening, and he does. Immediately, with Destiny available, they can get up here.
Otacon pulled away from, so now it is Weibo making their way towards the Baron Pit. But Xiaohu is already in a lot of trouble to flash away before even using the Pop Blossom. Death Realm has only gone in on to the Scion, I believe, and so Xiaoxu's just going to go on the retreat. JDG started the Baron, and they do the job of getting Weibo away from the Otacon, but now Weibo's on the top side of the map. They can continue to fish it for a fight, if not starting up the objective themselves.
Yeah, look, mid lane. Light is just hammering away at this tier 2 turret. They forgot to deal with their waves, and now they're just corralling them. Shun is now caught out.
Yeah, he flashes away from the gold card, but still gets hit up by the stun. Breathe gonna flash after the Poppy, and in goes Tian here with the call of the pack. Scout still has his flash, still very safe here on this Victor. But here comes the rest of the play. Redemption being issued, nobody going down, as both sides playing it safe with Weibo knowing elimination is at stake here.
Xiaoxu could have made a massive play there by burning the flash of Light. very real possibility that in future team fights with these two big objectives being up, that now the Mordekaiser, 3 items strong, can flash in, take the Yunara into that death chamber, and maybe with this 2-level lead win that 1 versus 1. That seems to be the route I'd be taking to take down this Yunara, separate her from the Lulu, make it so that she's not in a good position to try and find these big 5 versus 5s and instead isolate her into a 1v1.
Soul point now picked up for Weibo. They're going to get a blue buff to boot as well, as Tian says thank you for the leash. As Weibo are able to pick up these objectives, they're able to pick up waves, pick up towers, but they have not found that singular team fight. And I take us back to game 1, Rood, where Weibo were up 2-0 in terms of kills for the first 15 to 20, for the first 20 minutes, I should say, until it was JDG that won 3 team fights in a row and eventually won that game. There's a chance that happens here, although it's going to be much harder given the gold deficit. But Weibo have to have that in the back of their minds that they have not broken the gates open yet.
Yeah, the 5k gold deficit is a pretty big determiner, but I look at the structures on the map as well, the pacing of this game. Weibo are going to know that they are the ones who are in control. They've got really, really good tools to keep this Yunara alive. It's about making sure that they can do it, as Breathe is just walking headlong into everybody.
Just face tanking 1v4, and nobody on JDG can do anything about it. Infinity Edge, not even a singular punch onto Breathe, who now is still going forward with that Soul Furnace unlocked. Lands a stun on the Scout with the Roar of the Slayer, knock up as well, but no full trigger being pulled. That Dinner Bell still available for Breathe if he wants to go in with the Unstoppable Onslaught. Now Xiaohu has spotted Xiaoxu on the flank and taking him down to about half HP. JDG are dangerously low. Another stun lands on the board, and Tian will pick it up. First kill into the hands of Weibo, and they're looking for more. Breathe goes forward with the Unstoppable Onslaught, trying to lock down Peyz, and Tian will run him down. Scout in some trouble as well, as JD Gaming are burning at the hands of Weibo. Shun, the last one alive, but it's Xiaohu, the little tiger of Weibo, that roars to life. With this team on the brink, they pick up the ace. They TP into the mid lane and are going to try to break open the inhibitor tower in mid.
Forget the inhibitor tower, Grapes. It's 30 minutes. There are 40-second death time as Weibo won the game.
It is 10 seconds on Zhuo, 15 on Xiaoxu. Not going to be enough for Weibo to be stopped into the base of JD Gaming. There will be no sweep. The series will continue, and Weibo Gaming's dreams are alive in Split 3 of the LPL.
And in the bloodiest game nobody ever saw, 7 total kills for 31 minutes. It's Weibo Gaming that come out on top. A single kill for JD. And Weibo just take one fight, they take one swoop into the mid lane, and they take the game itself, forcing us to a fourth game now. And, making JDG fans just begin that sweating a little bit.
This is not my LPL, man. This is not what I signed up for when Kelsey messaged me 9 months ago. I thought we were going to get kills. That was 7 kills in a 33-minute game. But I'm not complaining too much because it still means that Weibo have won. They played a very clean game of League of Legends, and now they're still alive here in this best-of-5 series. And JDG suddenly have to start thinking about what happened in the upper bracket.
Yeah, I mean, the Lulu Sion pairing was pretty lethal in that end game there. We have a Sion who can't be moved. He's then got a shield from Lulu for 600. As soon as that falls off, he has Soul Furnace, which is another 700 HP shield. Then the Lulu shield's back up, then his shield's back up, and it's just this intangible cycle of never being able to get through a Sion. And, when you look at this as a JD fan, you're thinking, how are we ever supposed to play this game? But as Weibo, you're just thinking, how on earth were they ever supposed to play this game? They had no chance really throughout, and credit to Weibo for just being able to play themselves into this position.
I mean, it was slowly, then all at once there in that game. We kept saying, oh, maybe JDG will be able to scale. Maybe they'll be able to do something. But at the end of the day, it was their setups around these neutral objectives that kind of cost them. At the end, it wasn't necessarily kills that would go over, but it would be, dances around the dragons that would result in, ultimates being burned and just plays being made. We saw the sequence where 2 towers were taken basically simultaneously on Weibo's side that ended up really blowing the gold lead open, and that's something that JDG are going to have to look at in terms of how they play their macro going into Game 4.
Absolutely. I mean, they need to think about really what they're looking to get out of, the next draft as well. What went wrong in this one? And, for the most part, you have to sort of highlight the fact that there wasn't really a tool to deal with this Scion, and that the win conditions that we're highlighting, Mordekaiser needs to be able to get on top of the Yunara. Well, how do they get there? It's probably through flank angles. Did we ever see Xiaoxu make that flank angle? No, not at all. It was, again, this inconsistency that we see from JDG, where they have these two standout performances where it looks like Weibo have got absolutely no chance whatsoever, and then just all of a sudden it's like they've reverted back to old ways, and they've completely forgotten how the game works.
Now, to their credit, it was not like the typical ways that JDG would lose games, per se. It was, Scout only died like once or twice that game. It was not necessarily like his fault getting caught out. It was mostly the macro decisions. And you take a look at the composition that they have. It is very strong once you get later into the game, and you have Victor Sivir as this massive backline that's able to dish out a ton of damage, and they were able to clearly do some damage, but they never were able to find the right setups, and that's on Shun and Zhuo for either not having the right angles, and also the nature of their compositions means that they have to be a little bit more creative in terms of how they do press that go button.
Yeah, and shout out to Breathe here for putting on his Best Grapes cosplay. Most damage in the game as the Scion in this match was,
that's my boy.
Taking a leaf out of your book here with the full tank build, still dealing the most damage. This was a very good performance from Breathe on that top side, just kind of positioning pretty much as he should throughout this game, and making sure that you can just see there's never a way for JDG to get through that front line. He's still full HP after having tanked them for the last like 30 seconds, and he just charges headlong into everybody. Nice redemption. Like, again, I think that the support top pairing, as weird as a pairing as that usually is, in this game, really worked out well.
Yeah, I mean, this comp it's a comp that works when you're ahead. I feel like that's, I guess, the case for both of these teams in a way, but Weibo, of course, able to get to that lead, and Breathe, he might be the MVP of this one just for how much time he bought in that last fight. I mean, it was pretty ridiculous that
he also did the most damage in the game. Like,
that's often an indicator as well. So you know what? I'm gonna give.
There were 3 fights. There were 3 fights in this entire game, and like Breathe did the most damage through all of them. So he probably took the most damage as well. There's no way that we can't give it to Breathe here. Surely.
Yeah. Stacked up really nicely. We asked him to deliver going into this third game, and guess what? He did. Not in the classic way where he's on an Mbessa or a Gwen and kind of 1v9ing, but on the Scion, still able to accomplish a whole lot, as this composition on JDG that was supposed to be able to burn through anybody on Weibo weren't able to do it against this mega tank that Weibo's top laner was able to unleash upon them.
Yeah, Scout versus Xiaohu has another page in its chapters, and we're hoping to see when that game number 4 finally gets up and underway, how it develops, because again, it's so frequently been a story that was ran by Xiaohu that into today. Scout looked like he was going to be able to get the better of it, but again, just the one final, or maybe one final twist, one more tale that needs to be told.
Or 2, depending on how the rest of this series goes. I know that we pulled up that graphic. Kai said JDG, they go to 5 games quite often. As we take a look at the MVP, going to Xiaohu on the Twisted Fate. I guess
didn't do the most
I would have
damage.
loved to give it to the big tank, but you know what? He did have a big gold lead in the mid lane, partly because of his champion, but also just the rest of the map that was played around him.
They already gave 1 top lane MVP for this series. They couldn't give them 2, especially when they played a tank. So that's just not possible.
Enough. Well, as we do see Xiaohu actually being able to contest with Scout finally here in this best of 5 series, Weibo able to keep things alive as they pull to within 1 game of JDG. But it is still Jindong at match point. They will have side select going into game 4, which is coming to your wavelengths here on LPL English right after this.